why would anyone say that, oh, it's Russia and China doing this? They're going up to the foreign minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, at his meetings this week, and they're saying, oh, you're killing Americans. Bitch, Iran was supplying Russia with drones in their own war. If Iranian drones are good enough to supply Russia in their war, then what makes you think they're not good enough for Iran to use against some stupid, bases that have no defenses whatsoever in Jordan? I don't know what the U.S. expected when they decided they weren't going to fulfill like any parts of the memorandum of understanding. You remember that, right? Well, it was supposed to be the end of the war, the memorandum of understanding. Yeah, they didn't implement any of that stuff. Like from day one, they had already violated, I think, 3 of the points on the memorandum of understanding. What they thought was going to happen, I don't know. But it's very clear that one of the things Trump thought he could accomplish, either by way of the memorandum of understanding or in the strikes that took place after the memorandum of understanding kind of came to a close when everyone realized it was dead. One thing he thought he could accomplish was something they couldn't accomplish also during the entirety of the war, which was reopening the Strait of Hormuz. This has been the biggest conundrum for President Trump, has been reopening the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, he doesn't want to just reopen it. He wants to charge tolls that will be paid to America. Paid to his piggy bank in whatever currency, shekels, I'm sure he'd prefer, for ships that cross the Strait of Hormuz. Now, if you didn't accomplish this in the whole war, if you didn't accomplish this when you assassinated their leader, if you didn't accomplish this when you blew up their bridges, if you didn't accomplish this when you blew up their nuclear sites and their missile cities you tried to blow up, if you didn't accomplish this when you murdered 160 schoolgirls, if you didn't accomplish it through the negotiations, when do you think that you're going to accomplish it? How do you think you're going to accomplish this goal of opening the Strait of Hormuz through some random strikes on the south of Iran, on Bandar Abbas? What is that going to do? I don't know. But apparently Trump thought that somehow or another they were going to get the Strait of Hormuz open. I guess he thought that if they hit a bunch of bridges and a bunch of cities and targets and try to cut off Bandar Abbas, I guess, from the rest of the country by way of these strikes, they were going to isolate the defenses in Bandar Abbas, then sneak some ships through the Omani route in the Strait of Hormuz, which, to be fair, the U.S. did get like a few, I think around 10 ships through. And the entire duration of since the war came to a pause, I guess you could say, right? I think they got around 10 ships through, which is not going to move the needle of global energy markets. 10 ships, not going to do it. There is a solution to this whole thing. There's all these crazy crackpot ideas of oh, well, if we just build a new pipeline that's going through, it's at the top of, the Persian Gulf, and we build it through Iraq, then we could have a different route for oil. Yeah, you could, I guess, but that is also well within the range of Iranian drones, Iranian missiles, damn close for, any sort of cross-border operations if Iran wanted to do that, right? I don't know what the idea there is. There were some people saying they had all these crazy ideas. The only way that you could actually safeguard oil supply from Iran right now is to do exactly what Iran has done with their missile cities and with their nuclear sites. It's proven to work quite well for them. Just stick it underground, right? Countries they tried to do this in the past. Germany and World War II, Nazi Germany, they did try. The plan never actually came about, but they did try to do some sort of an underground oil infrastructure thing. Never finished because they're losers. But the U.S. is like they don't even have the capacity to think of this sort of an idea. They understand that no matter how many tomahawks, no matter how many of these JDAMs and bunker busters that they launch at these facilities, they can't actually get inside the facilities. But they can't take that same logic and apply it to their own oil infrastructure, which is objectively hilarious. Now, over the last several weeks, the U.S. has tried to hit the south of Iran, Bandar Abbas, really since like the second to last day I was in Iran, second or third to last day I was in Iran, the strike started. So they have not hit Tehran. I don't even think they've hit Tabriz, despite the fact that Iran has been launching from Tabriz, which is very interesting. But, they've been focused on trying to cut off Bandar Abbas. That hasn't worked. That has not worked. In fact, you look at these strikes that are ongoing right now, and some of the strikes that they're uploading onto CENTCOM official Twitter accounts. I got a few of them listed here. The U.S. uploaded a video where they struck an already damaged and abandoned Arash-2 drone, an Iranian drone, alongside a house that was already obliterated. And they uploaded a video of themselves bombing that again. That's supposed to be some sort of W, some sort of victory. I don't know. I don't know what they're telling Trump. They're just hitting these random targets that don't actually have any sort of impact whatsoever on the war. They hit 4 empty Iranian missile canisters. Why? And why do you upload that after hitting these? They also hit a scrapyard for fishing boats over the last several weeks and uploaded a video of that. It's like, what is the point of dropping these measly little missiles on these targets that are not even targets? The targeting intelligence is either extremely outdated. There is, no intelligence whatsoever, and the U.S. is just kind of doing random stuff. Or there's another crazy theory that like the actual U.S. military personnel don't want this war to escalate, so they're just hitting random BS, like nothing burgers. They're hitting like a random scrapyard, and they're presenting it to Trump as if it's like some mastermind plan to take out an underground structure. I don't really know what is going on here, but what I can tell you is that it's not working. Strait of Hormuz still closed, very close as can be. The Iranians, however, as we have seen, have been hitting U.S. bases extremely hard, even Jordan, which they only hit to a limited degree during the actual war on Iran. They were mostly focused on, Kuwait, on Bahrain, on Saudi Arabia, on the UAE. Those were most of their main targets. Jordan, not so much, further away, right? That's where the U.S. kept most of its fighter jets, its drones, its precious military assets that it didn't want to get blown up, because surely they were going to get blown up in these Gulf states. So this was supposed to be the safe haven. And Iran, as soon as the U.S. started to hit the south of Iran, Iran showed the U.S. that Jordan is not a safe haven. The U.S. has had to now evacuate 2 military bases in Iran, including the Muwafaq Salti Air Base, 900 kilometers away from Iran. They've had to evacuate it because it got blown up over 60 times over the last 2 weeks. In fact, we have some new statements here from the IRGC spokesperson, reported in Tasnim. 11 U.S. fighter jets and helicopters on the ground at regional bases were hit and destroyed over the last couple weeks, 15 days. Iran also destroyed 17 surveillance and combat drones, including 1 F-15 fighter inside a hangar, a P-8 aircraft, and a C-17 transport plane, and 8 refueling aircraft. Meaning, Iran raped the U.S. military bases in the region. No other way to cut it. No other way to slice it. That's just... And it gets worse. it gets worse, right? Because this is actually the full list. I'm not even going to bother to go through this full list. This is actually the full list of everything that was hit, according to the satellites and Iranian intelligence over the last 15 days. I mean, you've got all of these are radars. And this isn't just like what each one is like 7 radars, 3, 6 Patriot air defense radars. Wow. Support and logistics facilities targeted to reduce operational capacity. 6 fighter jet and helicopter maintenance centers, 12 fuel storage tanks, so on and so forth, right? Here we have operational infrastructure, 6 MQ-9 drone hangars, 1 F-15 fighter preparation hangar, 1 aircraft carrier refueling platform, 4 HIMARS missile launch platforms, 5 fighter jet aircraft hangars. It goes on. And then, of course, we get down here to the aerial assets. 11 fighter jets and helicopters destroyed or damaged, 1 F-15, 1 P-8, 1 C-17, 8 aerial refueling aircraft, 4 heavy helicopters, and 6 stored missiles. So, not a good look for the United States. The United States is blowing. This is the craziest thing you all need to understand. The United States, over the last 2 weeks, is blowing up bridges that get rebuilt in like 24 hours, abandoned scrapyards for fishing boats, empty missile canisters that Iran had, and what else did I list there? There was something else I listed there. Oh yeah, an already downed and destroyed, abandoned Arash-2 drone. And then on the flip side, Iran is like blowing up all their bases in the region. This cost-benefit analysis, it does not pan out. How could you continue? You cannot continue on this trajectory and expect anything good to happen. So that's why now the U.S. is freaking out. Trump is freaking out. And then there's all these crazy stories. There's these crazy stories. New York Post is putting out a story like Iran's frightening pinpoint accuracy of their missile systems. Yeah, you didn't. What did you think was going to happen? Like, Iran for decades has been preparing for this very moment. Iran for decades has been building up their missile and drone defenses for this very moment, and their ground forces, which you haven't even seen yet. You don't even know what they're capable of. And all of these people at the New York Post, New York Times, Washington Post, Fox News, CNN, they are absolutely illiterate, ignorant. They're like infants when it comes to understanding the history of Iranian ground warfare. They have no idea what they're walking into. No idea whatsoever. Now, there was these funny stories that came out this week, and they were saying stuff like, oh, well, Russia and China must be supplying Iran with the missile technology. Oh, God. Blame everything on Russia and China, right? Just blame it all. Have we not gotten to the point where maybe we can just accept that, like, Iran has extremely advanced technologies? You know, when I was in Iran, every single person I met is like, oh, I'm a doctorate of this sort of engineering, and I'm a doctorate of this, and I'm a doctorate of that. Oh, yes, yeah, they could all talk about the intricate details of these mechanics of these missiles and what's going on, and just like random people you meet. Random people you meet on the street can look at these photos and differentiate the Hormuz 4 missile and the Khaybar missile, and they can tell you all the different missiles. They can tell you what they do. And I'm like, in America, you can't show a person, you can't point out a single state on the map of the United States and expect that more than half of the people that you ask are going to know what that state is. But Iranians, they know like these intricate details of all these missiles and drones. It's like everyone is so educated. And by the way, did you know in Iranian universities, over half of the graduates are women? More women in Iranian universities than men. Did you know that? Because definitely in the Western press, they haven't told you that. I'm just making sure that you knew that. It's an interesting fact, right? Anyways, the Wall Street Journal has finally come out and admitted, some of this truth. They said Iran is increasingly using its Khaybar-Sheikhan missile and coordinated attacks, combining different flight paths, speeds, and drones to make interception more difficult. So yeah, finally some people are waking up to the fact that Well, this is how it's gone on. Iran at the start, the very first attacks that Iran launched, they launched like however many drones. They launched 300 drones, low quality, old generation drones at Israel. And okay, they know that they're not going to get through. And this is what we've said. This is how we've reported it. This is how every single YouTube show that is honest, independent, transparent, and educated about these things has reported it. But somehow no one in the mainstream media has figured this out. The mainstream media during the first Iranian strikes on Israel, they're like, oh, they launched 300 and only a few got through. That means that Iran has no capacity to defend themselves. I'm sure that people from the Pentagon told that to Trump. I'm sure Trump doesn't even need someone from the Pentagon. Trump watches Fox News and he's seeing this and he's getting so egotistical, so arrogant. And he's like, oh, they only got a few through out of 300. Well, obviously we can take on Iran, right? But Iran saw that. They got a few through out of these 300 of these old models of drones that they have no real intention to use. They identify the weak points in the layered defenses of the Israeli air defense system. They understand which flight paths work the best, what speeds work the best, which drones and which barrage made it through, and which ones had the least likelihood of making it through. They see all of this stuff. They take notes. They adjust. Then the next time they launch a few new things. And they see how that goes. And time after time after time after time, until the point where you get to these extremely advanced missiles. Extremely advanced missiles with not just all the intricacies of the engineering that was put into actually designing the missiles, but you also have the foreknowledge of all of the preceding attacks that Iran has launched that you can utilize to actually help perfect the launch of these exact missiles, of these drones. And Iran did that all on their own. Why would anyone say that, oh, it's Russia and China doing this? They're going up to the foreign minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, at his meetings this week, and they're saying, oh, you're killing Americans. Bitch, Iran was supplying Russia with drones in their own war. If Iranian drones are good enough to supply Russia in their war, then what makes you think they're not good enough for Iran to use against some stupid, bases that have no defenses whatsoever in Jordan? Okay, let's continue on here. So the Pentagon is very concerned about all this stuff. Pete Hegseth is, he got outed by the New York Times covering all this stuff up. You guys already know this, right? You guys already know this. They covered up. They said, so the New York Times called them out and said, look, Pentagon, we know you're covering up a bunch of casualties, right? Because the law of the land is the Pentagon has to publicly release the figures of troops killed in action, the KIAs. They have to release them within like 24, 48 hours, something like that. I think it's within 24 hours of notifying the family of the fallen soldier. And then the trick here is any soldiers who are injured, they don't ever have to actually announce how many soldiers are injured, right? So this was crazy. The New York Times came out and said, like, okay, you're covering up like hundreds of injured troops that you're not reporting. And then the next day, Pete Hegseth came out and he's like, oh yeah, we had about 100. We had a little bit less than 100 who were injured, and about 50 of them got evacuated to Germany, military evacs, whatever. I don't believe that. I think it's way, way, way worse. But who am I to say? I have no idea. I'm just guessing. But what I will tell you is we've all seen tons and tons and tons of those satellite photos showing many military barracks, which are now sitting in the soil of the Muwafaq Salti Air Base in ash and rubble. So maybe it's, what did he say, 190? He said 90 injured soldiers. Maybe, I don't know. Those were a lot of military barracks. Lots of military barracks that got blown up in smoke. I don't know. And then the craziest part about this whole story is like, Okay, so 4 U.S. soldiers were killed this week. 3 of them were killed at the Mulfaq Salti Air Base in an Iranian strike. 2 of them were air defense. So 2 of them, the 2 Latino girls, the 29-year-old and the 19-year-old, they were air defense specialists for a different operation, not Epic Fury. They were doing like the anti-ISIL operation in the Middle East, the anti-Daesh operation in the Middle East. And then the one soldier that was unalived in Erbil downed an Iranian suicide drone. Actually, there was a downed suicide drone, and he went to go and disarm the drone, and it blew up in his face, and he was unalived. So the craziest part about this whole story I'm getting to is that the United States came out and removed those 4 soldiers from the list of deceased soldiers in the Iran war. How does that make any sense whatsoever? If Iran, if the US was getting attacked and Iran blew up like a US military base on American soil or something, I don't even know. You get what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what the person's job is that they're doing. If you are a soldier that's unalived, that is a KIA in the war. It is absolutely disgusting and disgraceful that Trump removed them from the list of casualties in this war. What is he saying? He's saying they just died of negligence, essentially. They just were getting out of the shower. They slipped on the floor. It was wet and they hit their head on the toilet seat and they drowned in the toilet. What are you saying? It's insane. They literally removed the KIAs from the list of unalived soldiers from the war. So anyways, the U.S. is obviously very pissed off that all these satellite images are still getting out there. And you guys remember, right? There used to be several companies that were providing these satellite images of U.S. bases that were getting hit. Planet and Maxar are 2 companies that were providing a lot of this information, a lot of these satellite photos to American companies. And then when the bases started to get hit really hard in the Iran war, they said, whoops, no more. U.S. We're demanding that you stop sharing these. You got to stop sharing these. No more. And then there was a European company called Copernicus. Now, Copernicus stepped in. They actually put out a public statement. And I think it was in May. I don't know when it was. Anyways, they said they put out a public statement saying actually, we're a European firm. We're Copernicus. We can operate wherever we want. We can upload whatever photos we want. And we're going to continue operating without restrictions. Until, of course, this week. This week, everything changed. And as a result of the crazy amount of strikes on these U.S. bases in the region, in particular in Jordan and Kuwait, no more Copernicus reporting satellite images. They will now all have a delay. Now, this is the last part of the story that I want to get into regarding the military feats of the United States, because it is really incredible what the United States is up to. Iran has seemingly destroyed so many U.S. air assets, which we covered at the start of this story. You can go back and see that if you want. These are all the various military assets that the U.S. or that Iran destroyed in the past 15 days. Lots of air assets, as you can see here. It apparently has gotten so bad that the U.S. is now being forced to fly MQ-4 surveillance drones all the way from Sicily, because they have no safe bases left in the Middle East to store their own drones at. So they have to, it's incredible. It's incredible. Also, the U.S. is now buying PAC-2 air defense systems from Raytheon. These are the archaic, outdated air defense systems that we thought no one would ever buy again. But the U.S. has had so many of their PAC-3s and their other advanced air defense systems blown up. Now they are contracting Raytheon to buy PAC-2s because they've got nothing left thanks to these Iranian strikes. So there you have it. I mean, everything backfired 100,000 million%. And there's no going back now. No going back. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.